With the UK growth slowing down and demand for public services rising, are politicians being honest about the trade-offs between taxation and spending?
Right, well, I've been looking at all your manifestos. Some have got costings, some haven't got costings at all, some sort of costings. Rhun, are you being honest about the trade-off between taxes and what you want to spend?
It was one of the big criticisms of both the main parties going into the UK general election in 2024, wasn't it? That there was a real dishonesty about a massive black hole that people like me said was in the UK finances. They denied it, and of course it turned out that yes, they did find a £20 billion black hole as we warned. There is a real issue of a lack of finances in order to deliver public services well in Wales. To me and the party I lead, it's a number of things. It's being very ambitious but cautious in what you can deliver. Be realistic with people and say we've had to put together a focused programme on health and education, on childcare and on growing the Welsh economy.
But are you being realistic
to the other side?
Are you being realistic if you've got the Institute for Fiscal Studies saying you're either going to have to make cuts or increase devolved taxes? Well, neither of which you are acknowledging in your manifesto.
Well, we took our manifesto for independent assessment and it came back saying, yes, there are challenges here, but this is achievable. And that's really important because that's where the trust comes in. You need to know that something is achievable. But does it mean that we still need UK government to play its part in giving us fair funding for Wales, giving us the £4 billion owed to us because of HS2 rail, allowing us to take control of our own natural resources in Wales through giving us control of the Crown Estate? Yes, but we have to do with careful government. And the kinds of mistakes that we've seen from Labour being put to one side after 27 years of Labour rule, we need to have a government that takes a different approach with honesty with the public, but setting a high bar too in terms of our ambition.
Dan, are you being honest about it? I mean,
we are
when it
being
comes to
honest.
taxation, you want to cut a penny off the Welsh rate of income tax across the board.
Yes, and we've explained, unlike Plaid Cymru, who's got a very expensive childcare offer, which you've not explained, Rhun, how you would fund that. We have explained how we would fund it. So it would cost £370 million initially, and we can fund that by £145 million, scrapping a load of net zero subsidies, green levies, that kind of thing. We'll scrap those. That'll save us £145 million. We have 200 quangos in Wales, well over 200 quangos, costing us over £135 million. Again, we need to merge those, bring them in-house, need to change that. We're over-governed, and we can save easily £95 million on civil service pay restraint. So we've spelt out how we would fund ours, and we would fund our tax cut in the last year of our term. So we've got 3 years to make it. So it's a very credible case for making savings, which add up, Fiona, to just 1.5% of the budget.
But at the risk of sounding like a broken record, you're going to hear this quite a lot. The Institute for Fiscal Studies says you're going to have to make cuts as well, and you're not.
They do. They've said that of every government, of every party. But let me just remind you, our savings.
Are they wrong?
Yeah, well, our savings only add up.
Right,
they've got an opinion, as we're all allowed in politics, but it'll add up to 1.5% of the total £27 billion that's spent in Wales. That is a tiny proportion for savings. Most businesses, most households should be able to make that kind of saving if they want it.
Do you think you'll have to cut anything?
No, and I've got experience. I'm the only party leader on this panel who has experience in cutting tax and protecting frontline service when I was a council leader. No one else has that experience here. And actually, the First Minister, who can't come today, has obviously already bottled it and has given up on Wales because she has not attended this panel.
I'll let you answer that in a minute. The man with his hand up in the audience there.
Do you think it's realistic that the UK can keep affording or can keep living beyond its means? Like, we keep going on as if we're a rich country, and obviously we haven't seen much growth. And so it's about time that politicians started taking things seriously.
We need growth and we need efficiency in public services, and that's what reform is all about. And sadly in Wales, there's been not enough growth. We only have one homegrown FTSE 100 company in Wales. That is appalling. That's on Labour and it's on Plaid Cymru.
Let me hear a bit more from our audience. Just a little bit, just behind with the man with the grey top and the glasses. Yeah.
And just responding to something that you said, Dan. I've worked with the Children's Commissioner's Office in Wales, and I'm assuming that's something you want to cut. The Children's Commissioner's Office does vital work in Wales. We've got a World First Future Generations Act in Wales.
Yes.
Something that happened because of something you want to get rid of. So how would you...
So we're not saying
Can
we
I
want to
finish
cut-
my
yes, of
question?
course.
How would you ensure that young people, disabled people, people living in poverty, how would you ensure that their voices are still being heard in government when you're saying bring them in-house, aka get rid of the people who are standing up for them?
No, so
Very briefly, Dan, because I'm not other people in.
we're not saying that we should stop doing what those bodies are doing. What we're saying is that the government should do it directly, and by doing that, you make efficiencies, you lose layers of management. All of these organisations.
The idea is that they are independent of government.
That's the
point.
problem. If they're
Okay.
independent, there's no accountability. Government ministers are blaming these quangos for failure
All
in
right,
policy.
let me bring some more people in the panel. Hugh, first of all, where is Aline? She didn't want to come along tonight?
No, Elena is busy out there campaigning, and I'm her deputy, so I'm very pleased
And we're
to
very
be
pleased
here
to
with
have you
the
here,
audience.
obviously,
Thank
but I
you.
just thought
I'm
you might
delighted to
reply,
be
you
here.
might reply to Dan's point there.
And it's my first
Okay.
time on the programme as well, so I'm doubly delighted.
So
to
let
be
me
here.
remind you of the question, are politicians, are you being honest about the trade-offs between taxes and public spending? And yet again, you've got the Institute for Fiscal Studies saying, you too, with your manifesto, will require cuts that you are not being upfront about.
We are being upfront, and we are actually saying what we will fund and what we will not fund. So, for example, we've got a proposal in here for a £4 billion new investment in a new hospital fund. Why can I say we'll do that? Because we've done it before with the 21st century schools. That was not far off the same amount of money. It was the biggest school building programme and college building programme this country has seen since the 1960s. So we have track record. And Dan, you're actually wrong in saying you're the only one in experience. We have lived through 14 years of Tory cuts to Welsh Government budgets, and we have managed those budgets and done our darndest to protect frontline services, invest in health, invest in social care. So within our offers, they are well costed, well funded, we know where the money is. We're not rushing at a childcare offer like Plaid Cymru are, which has been criticised. We're saying we will phase it in. We will bring forward another 20,000 childcare spaces. We will actually do 9-month onwards provision of childcare, but not on day one. We will phase it in. And why can I say we can do this? Because we developed the most ambitious childcare programme in the whole of the UK, and we will build it further, and it's costed.
You're making a great positive of the fact that Labour has been in power so long in Wales. Isn't that part of your problem?
Yes.
It's the challenge in an election, without a doubt, because if you're the incumbent party, then what you have to say to people is, you can't expect the same for us. We're actually going to do more. Where do we go next? So what we've done with 21st century schools, we will now do with the hospital estate. When we come back in, we don't do just what we've done. We will move to pay our teaching assistants, those people who read to your children in school, who are only paid 10 months a year.
Let's not have a whole long list. I appreciate you all want to make your points,
it's the next
but I want to hear from
chapter.
the audience too.
Yeah.
Man there in the blue suit, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
The ONS said that this year the benefits bill will exceed the entire income tax receipts for this country by £3 billion. Okay? If you don't get after that, and Labour can't, they tried and they failed to instigate a 5% cut in just the growth. But if you don't get after that, you are going to send this whole country to hell in a financial handcart. Okay? Everybody working with a job here, your entire income tax is being spent on the benefits bill.
And I just point out, obviously, welfare benefits are not devolved to Wales. That's something that is decided at Westminster. But I hear your point. I too noticed that statistic. Yes, woman there.
We constantly hear about this 20 million or 20 billion black hole that keeps happening and keeps coming up. If you were a business, you would be looking for those people to hold them account, possibly looking at prosecutions for that huge amount of money that has gone missing. You keep talking about it, but nobody is being named, nobody is being investigated with what they're doing with our money or what has happened to that money. Where is it? Who's done what with it?
Man here just in front of you.
Deform UK talk a fantastic game, but I wouldn't trust them with a knife and fork, frankly. They can't run a council in Kent without arguing with each other. Their leader has just become our top cryptocurrency salesperson this week. And one of their top priorities in Wales is to do away with the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Now, my average speed on the way here tonight was 7 miles an hour. So I don't know if Dan Thomas has ever driven in Cardiff, but of the top 100 issues that Wales faces, the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit is not one of them.
Okay, Dan, I will give you a chance to respond, but I'm just going to go around the rest of the panel. So let's go back to the original question. Darren, are you being honest about the trade-offs between taxes and spending? Now, you are promising to cut the basic rate by 1p. You're promising 20 million extra pounds for farmers, refunds on tuition fees, an M4 relief road, and a third Menai crossing. And you're not suggesting any spending cuts. How on earth are you going to do that?
Well, it's not true. We have said that we want to cut spending, and one of the first things that we want to do is to scrap the increase in the number of politicians in Cardiff Bay. Because what
but that's not going to touch the sides of all this, is it?
It's going to save us £80 million over the next 4 years. That's a lot of money that you could be spending on the NHS, on those frontline services, putting into school budgets.
Okay, what else? Because you know that's not going to cover all of this.
We want to roll back the size of the Welsh Government civil service. You know, we're all paying an extra £160 million each and every year compared to what we were paying just 3 years ago for the size of the Welsh Government. That's too much bureaucracy, and we need to get rid of it. We need to stop the Welsh Government frittering away taxpayers' money on things for which they have no responsibility whatsoever. Overseas mini-embassies in exotic locations that ministers love to go and visit, by the way, need to go. They're not responsible for foreign affairs, not responsible for international development. So solar-powered canoes for the Amazon, I'm sorry, the Welsh taxpayer can't afford it. We need to spend that money in our schools, hospitals and public services.
And what do you say to the Institute for Fiscal Studies that says you've no credible plan for spending cuts?
Well, they didn't ask us about what we were going to cut. I've just set out some of the things we're going to cut and roll back. And another thing, by the way, is the £200 million which is being given to a loss-making airport in Cardiff, which is an albatross around the people's neck. Look, people are paying too much in tax in this country. We're paying more and more, and we're getting less in return. Taxes are up, unemployment is up, borrowing is up, energy bills are up, water bills are up, and yet the only thing that's going down is our growth rate. If we want to be a more prosperous nation and have the finance to be able to invest in our public services, then we have to grow the Welsh economy. And the one thing I will tell you that would be a disaster for Wales would be independence for Wales, which would cost thousands and thousands of pounds for every single person in this audience.
And that is the dishonesty right there. £1 billion black hole in their plans, £1 billion black hole in Reform's plans. That is the dishonesty that is undermining people's trust in politics.
And is there no black hole in your plans?
No, there isn't. It is achievable. That is the independence of investment.
Okay, let me come to hang on, everybody. Let's bring Anthony, because he's not managed to get a word in. But Anthony,
this reminds me of that saying about two bald men fighting over a comb. All just throwing these numbers around. And Darren, I think you might get part of
well, listen, they're throwing their numbers around. The Greens, of course, are not throwing any numbers around. Can we have any costings from you?
We have numbers on our priorities.
Well, so you haven't provided any costings, and I'm a bit confused if you are going to provide them, if so, when?
I can tell you what the cost of our free bus travel for under 22.
But what about costing your manifesto overall?
Well, we've got priorities in the manifesto.
But you haven't costed them, have you?
The priorities
costed what your manifesto is.
Priorities are costed.
But not the rest of it.
That we can do in the current situation. Rhun's absolutely right to point out the need for fair funding for Wales. But we have to accept that in the next 4 years, that's not going to happen. It's going to be a push from two parties at this table to get that, but we do have to operate.
It's likely to decrease, in fact.
We have to operate in the spending situation we find ourselves in now. But we've got things that we know can be done, other things that we are confident could be done. And I think saying we've got a costed manifesto and plucking figures out of the air, that's what's destroying faith in politics. That's why we're getting questions like, are people being honest with us? I mean, Labour talk about 4 billion for 2 new hospitals and doing up another one. They know.
Sorry, three.
Well, one new
West
hospital,
Wales, North Wales, and one here in
one new
Cardiff,
hospital comes in. One new hospital comes in at 2 billion minimum. So
no, they don't.
So it's throwing numbers around. And
if you're not throwing any
most recent hospital is 400 million.
If you throw
400 million.
If you throw no numbers around, isn't it a bit like going?
We're looking at the situation where Wales is now, and the people of Wales are hurting. We heard about inequality, we heard about people struggling, and the two are linked. Gentleman at the back talked about the UK not being able to match things up. The UK is a wealthy nation. There is wealth in these countries. Those people aren't paying their tax. That's why, at a larger UK level, we talk about wealth taxes, making the millionaires and the billionaires pay their fair share to fix our broken services that they all rely on. Obviously, we don't have the powers to do that in Wales, but we're looking at the levers we would have, one of which is scrapping the unfair council tax, replacing that with a land value tax, which means people with vast assets in land will pay more. People struggling with the cost of living crisis, struggling to heat their homes, struggling to pay their bills, they will see a decrease in their bills because we've got to tackle these things. We can't. It's also a case of, these things, it's a wish list. I think the people of Wales are tired of politicians who've been in that building for 27 years and managed the decline, telling them that good things aren't possible. We have to be ambitious. We have to do the things that this country needs, and we have to make the wealthy pay their fair share.
Right, there's lots of hands. I just want to get round some of you. Yes, the woman there in the glass with the blue top. Yeah.
Going back to a point that you yourself, the Conservative Party leader, made about reducing the number of Welsh politicians. Don't you understand how that could be a little bit concerning coming from a Conservative Party leader who, and the Conservative government over the last 14 years, has constantly been making cuts to Wales and advocated just against Welsh independence? Don't you understand how that might be concerning, like stripping back our powers?
You know what? I'm proud of the last UK government and the settlement that it gave Wales. It left Wales with record settlements. Left Wales with record settlements. And for every pound spent on a devolved service, here's a fact. Here's a fact for you. For every pound spent on a devolved service in England, like the NHS and education per capita, Wales receives £1.20.
Same's true for
we
London.
receive £1.20, but we get worse results for patients and worse outcomes for our children in our schools. That's not acceptable.
Okay.
That's not acceptable. I'm not prepared to tolerate it.
I think there will be less politicians from some parties.
There's someone at the very back, and I can't... all I can see is you've got moustaches. I can't see what you're wearing. Yes, off you go.
I just feel Reform and the Conservatives have just come here and you're just pandering to the fingertips. You're here going, we're going to cut net zero, we're going to slash all these new Senedd members. That would leave this country in absolute ruin. Scrapping net zero, Rhun mentioned very briefly about the Crown estate. Instead of scrapping net zero and leaving our country as a wasteland, surely you'd want to devolve the Crown estate, regain 65% of our seabed. Sorry, can I finish? Regain the 65% of our seabed, over 50,000 acres of land, to promote offshore wind. Yep. Don't scrap net zero to try and pander to this right-wing politics. It doesn't make sense.
Net zero is impoverishing our country.
Yes.
So to me, one of the most obvious ways of increasing our income tax revenue is by getting more people into work. Yes. I think it's one in 4 people in Wales are out of work.
Yes.
Of working age adults are out of work. Now, I'm a proud Welshman. I'm sure many other men and panellists are themselves. Where is our ambition for Wales?
Yes. Absolutely.
We need pride starts with work. It starts at home. We need to get people back into work, and we all need to be contributing.
Okay, woman there in the stripy top.
You just mentioned that we need to stop funding independence, and Lib Dems have also come out and said the same thing. I'm getting really frustrated because there are so many young people, particularly like myself, who have frustrations with Westminster, and you are ignoring them.
And isn't it interesting how in this election you have Reform and the Conservatives and Labour and now the Liberal Democrats battling between themselves to say how hopeless Wales is, how useless Wales is, how we should limit our own ambitions. Plaid Cymru believes in the future of our nation, and it believes in your ability to design that future for us.
Thank you very, very patient. So, Jane, forgive me for taking so long. I was trying to bring lots of audience in, but forgive me, it's been so long to come to you.
I just really want to answer that point, if I may, on our
and then I'll ask you to ask the original question.
Indeed, thank you. Just to go back to your point, we don't want a penny spent on independence because actually our public services need that money. If there's a political project that Plaid Cymru want, if they are in the government, then they can go ahead and do it, but not from government funds. And we're saying that's a red line for us. So just to go back to John's question on taxes, we are in... The Welsh Liberal Democrats are saying something very different. And I just want to say this point. The 2 political parties on this table who say they want to cut income tax and yet protect our public services are quite frankly lying.
That's not true.
Because that is not possible at all. It is not.
It's alien to Wales.
Hang on, please let her answer.
If I may finish. Our public services are really up against it, and I just want to touch on social care, which is our flagship policy. We think that we need to put more money into social care to help our NHS. And to do that, we want the money to come from Westminster or the Senate budget. But if it can't, we'll be really upfront with Welsh people and we'll say we want a penny on income tax, ring fence for social care to fix the crisis. Right now, there are 1,400 people in our hospitals in Wales who can't get out of hospital because we don't have social carers. That is an absolute scandal and we want to do something about it.
So if you were to, and you very heavily caveated it, I noticed in your manifesto, but if you were to raise this extra money from income tax, it would be solely for social care. So there's other things that you want to do. There's a lot of promises that you are making, but you've also said we don't foresee cutting anything. Really?
We're clear that the next Senedd will produce a government which will have a majority party which will need the help and support of other parties. That could be the Welsh Liberal Democrats. Our manifesto is about an aspiration, is about our ambition. That's what will be going forward in terms of the next Welsh Government and in terms of...
It's not a manifesto for government, it's things you'd like to influence other parties with. Is that the way to look at it?
It is, absolutely. It is really important we get our childcare in place, we clean up our rivers. If we look after our rivers and our nature, they will look after us. And frankly, I think it's absolutely disgraceful that we're hearing about abolishing the net zero targets because that is fundamental to us and our planet.
Let me just, I'm going to move on in a minute because I want to try and get another question, but I did say I would let you answer the point made by the gentleman over there. I think you referred to them as deform UK. Your words, not mine. But I wonder if you want to reply to that, and also the comments made about net zero.
I mean, the gentleman mentioned you can't drive faster than 20 miles an hour in Cardiff, and that might be true at certain times. It's a very urban area. But what we forget is that Wales is a very big place. There's rural roads, there's urban roads, and people need their cars to get around. And the default 20 mile an hour speed limit, the change to that was opposed by almost 500,000 people in Wales, and more people than voted Labour at the last Senedd election. There is a democratic mandate to reverse that. And on the £1 billion black hole, it just proves the £1 billion black hole proves that Plaid Cymru do not understand the difference between capital and revenue. Because if you look at their rationale about our budget, they cannot be trusted with the public financing. They do not know how it works.
May I ask Reform UK about the lives that have been saved through reducing to 20 miles an hour?
We don't know that's down to speed.
The data and evidence is there.
I'd like to answer your question. The data is clear.
Let me answer.
How many dead people is acceptable?
100 lives have been saved and over 700 people have not got into hospital because they have not been hurt. And the collision rate in Wales has gone down 37% as opposed to England at 4%. So 20 miles an hour is making a difference to saving lives. And my view is if it saves one life, it's worth it.
So road deaths in Wales per population is actually higher than in England, and England doesn't have a default 20 mile an hour speed limit actually. So there's a statistic there, and we don't know with the current road death statistic if the cause was due to speed. The data is flawed. The data is flawed. They're trying to justify a very unfair, undemocratic policy.